Shalom, shalom. First off, I want to give all honor, all glory, and all praise to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rachak Wadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well, whose labors we've entered into. Shalom to the elect, which begins with the 144,000 mentioned in Revelation.
This is what happened.
Salakia. But continuing on in the introduction to all you brothers and sisters tuning in, to you I say shalom. This is Brother Halal from the Great Millstone Chicago camp coming at you with another lesson in truth. And this video that you see right here, I want to use it for, an inspiration. Well, not so much as an inspiration, but this video that I'm gonna play, where this Jake is gonna have a peaceful encounter with this bison. I'm gonna compare it to, the hedge of protection that Yahweh Bashim Shai's men are gonna have over them in the last days. Because as you know, this video on social media showed, this Edomite man in Yellowstone National Park who was taking photos of this bison, and this bison ran up on him and launched him 8 feet in the air. This Edomite man got launched by this bison, and he fell to the ground and he was seriously injured.
This is what happened.
But in this video right here, I'm gonna let it play real quick.
This is what happens when a bison meets a black man from America. Somebody look at this. He chose right up on him. Might be a female.
Beast, bro.
I want one. Where's bro at?
Alright, bro.
Just dapped him up. Look at that. This is what happens.
So hey, there you have it. And this lesson isn't gonna be on that specific video, but I just want to use this. I wanted to use that video to basically go into how, in the last days, the many Yahweh Bashim Shai, a part of our protection and the hedge of protection that the Lord is going to have over us is, us being in league, with the beasts of the field, and us not being afraid of them. Because at one point in time in the book of Genesis, there was a point in time where we were at peace with the beasts of the earth and with everything. And, through the curses, all of those things, discontinue. Now you have a lot of animal attacks and things of that nature. But in the last days, in the climax of Jacob's trouble, when all hell breaks loose in Babylon the Great, the men of Yahweh Bashim Shai are going to have a hedge of protection round about them. And the Lord is going to protect us from, Lord willing, the Lord is going to protect, us from evils, from beasts. Because when you read the scriptures in Jeremiah, it talks about the 4 sword judgments. Let's see, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 15. And I'll start at verse 1. It says, "Then said the Lord unto me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my mind cannot be towards this people. Cast them out of my sight and let them go forth. And it shall come to pass that they shall say unto thee, whither shall we go forth? Then shalt thou tell them, thus saith the Lord, such as are for the death to the death, and such as are for the sword to the sword, and such as are for the famine to the famine, and such as are for the captivity to the captivity." So you're going to have a lot of, wicked Israelites, of course, that are going to be, rejected and ultimately perish in these last days. 2/3 to be exact, which that's besides the point. Verse 3, it says, "And I will appoint over them 4 kinds, saith the Lord, the sword to slay and the dogs to tear, the fowls of heaven and the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy." And that's one of the 4 sword judgments that's going to come upon, ultimately the Israelites and really the wicked in general. Like what we seen when that Edomite got launched, 8 feet in the air by that bison. But the men of Yahweh Bashim Shai are going to be at peace. They're going to have a hedge of protection around them. They're going to be protected from all manner of evil, and they're going to be at peace with, the beasts of the earth, because back in the book of Genesis, there was a point in time where, as I'm going to read in verse 26, it says, "And the Most High said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish and of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of the Most High created he, male and female created he them. And the Most High blessed them, and the Most High said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And, in the climax of Jacob's trouble before the kingdom, when we're really going to have, dominion over all living things, the Lord is going to allow us to pass by, the wild beasts of the field. When judgment comes upon these people, and you have dogs and, lions and all these creatures ripping people to shreds, because the scripture said in the Apocrypha that what? The wild beasts would change their places, meaning what? Wild beasts and animals will occupy areas that they're not typically found in, that's not their natural habitat. But the men of Yahweh Shema Shai, they're going to be given the hedge of protection from the Lord. And they're going to have dominion over the beasts of the field, man. And in times of trouble, like that interaction I showed between, that Israelite man and that bison, things like that are going to occur to the elect. They're going to be traversing their way through Jacob's trouble, seeing all the hell passing by, and now going to be all manner of wild beasts, and none of them will lay a tooth or a claw in the men of Yahweh Shema Shai, because the Lord is going to have his spirit on us. He's going to strengthen us, that we may be able to endure all the trouble, if we be that number, Lord willing, Yahweh Ratazah. Well, from there, let's go to the book of Job, chapter 5 and verse 17. And it says, "Behold, happy is the man whom the Most High correcteth, Salakia. Therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty, for he maketh sore and bindeth up. He woundeth, and his hands make whole. He shall deliver thee in 6 troubles, yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. In famine he shall redeem thee from death, and in war from the power of the sword. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shalt thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh." This next verse is the point. It says, "At destruction and famine thou shalt laugh, neither shalt thou be afraid of the beasts of the earth. For thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee." So the men whom the Lord has corrected, ultimately, the elect, the chosen, those who have repented to Yahweh by Shema Shai for their wrongdoings and transgressions, in a time of trouble, in time of great famine, when Jacob's trouble hits Babylon the Great, they're going to be in league with the beasts of the field, and not just, mainly beasts that eat, plants like bison, but also among the predators, man. Lions, all of these animals, because you have to think, when Jacob's trouble, arises, and when these places are shut down, these animals fill up these zoos, man. And the Lord, best believe, in times of judgment, the Lord is going to allow those animals to escape in order to go after whom he deems worthy of death. But the men of Yahweh Shema Shai are going to be in league with the beasts of the earth, and they're not going to be afraid of them. And they're going to have a peaceful interaction with them, like that video I played at the beginning of the lesson. The Lord is going to show who his men truly are, and he's going to magnify first and foremost, he's going to magnify himself. Yahweh Shai, he's going to get his glory first, and then his men after, his heirs. The Lord is going to magnify himself first, then he's going to magnify his men. And everybody's going to know who the chosen really is, man. Let's get the book of Psalms, chapter 91. And I ended off with this. It says, verse 1, it says, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress. My power, in him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence." And fowler, goes into a trap, bait. And the noisome pestilence, that's actually referring to the destruction that these missiles are going to bring. That's why it's called the noisome pestilence. And it's mentioned many times in the scriptures, like in Ezra's where it mentions where the prophet Ezra seen the future vision of arrows as he described being shot from one end of the earth to another. We know that it's impossible for a man to shoot an arrow from one end of the earth to another. So the prophet Ezra was seeing a future vision of missiles. Then you also got the scripture in Isaiah, the earth shall rock to and fro like a drunkard, as a result of the impact of these projectiles. And then, of course, you also have Joel, the 2nd chapter, for those who want more proof of the noisome pestilence and what it is and what it represents. Verse 4, "And he shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid of the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in destruction, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand." So there's going to be a lot of death out here. There are going to be a lot of bodies dropping, man. Let the bodies hit the floor. It's that rock song. You know what I'm talking about. That rock song where it says, let the bodies hit the floor. I'm not sure what band it is, but that's literally going to occur. It's going to be a lot of bodies hitting the floor, man. In Jacob's trouble, it won't be no, grave diggers and pallbearers, man. It's going to be a bunch of corpses laid all over the place. Imagine the stench. Verse 8, it says, "Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways." So a moral of the story, in these times of trouble, when the Lord sends the different manner of beasts to, kill these people, destroy them, eat them, the many Yahweh Shema Shai are going to be kept safe from those beasts. And they're going to be in league with them. They're going to be at one with the beasts of the field, man. They're not going to be afraid, and the Lord is going to lead them through all destruction until he comes back and that salvation is given. So just a little lesson I wanted to make, based off that video I played. It inspired me to make this lesson going into the hedge of protection that the Lord is going to place over his men. So with that, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh Bashim Shai, Bashim Kakodash, double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone who rule well and teach well. Shalom, Kwam, Inshallah. See you in the next lesson, Lord willing. Shalom.